if you're like manifesting some big goal that you have had, like how have you gotten to the point of, okay, I'm going to change some things, starting tomorrow, I'm going to start doing things. Like, what has worked for you guys personally?
I'll go with Robin first.
Oh, great. It's so funny because y'all know I'm pretty fast. And honestly, one, I mean, like I said, I've always just had like one thing in my mind, even as a kid or even after I was just like, God put me where I'm supposed to be. And like I said, there's a lot of times I was like, really? This where I'm supposed to be right now? But I've learned, I'm always like, okay, what am I learning? What am I learning? It's so funny because the three of us, we know our journeys were never this sitting right here. And I know we have said that, like, there is something bigger out there than us for us to be sitting here. And I think a lot of it was where I am now. And I look around at how many platforms I get and how many of all of this stuff I get to bring in and then deliver it in a way that like somebody else can't do it. And it's not that I'm better than anybody. It's just my path was so different that it's just, I just feel so blessed right now. And so I think that mine has actually been stepping back a little bit and being more present. Whereas before I was so, I'm going to get this. I was so hyper focused. And like I said, only one was fitting in a Lamborghini. And now I'm like, I'm kind of like the minivan, I want to bring people around me. But I really do think that there's just different stages, different ages. And because, of course, when we were all young, I'm sure internally we all were like, no, we are going to be a self-made woman. I mean, and now it's just kind of like we're all about our kids, grandbabies and growing the practice. Mm-hmm. Get new clinicians, like I said, I love to, lead leaders. I want them to now, go out. So I don't know. I think it's just about kind of pausing at every little thing and actually doing some reflection of, wow, I've really done some work to get here. I kind of like it here, Yeah, I might sit for a minute.
The pause part, definitely taking a minute to pause because that's a hard thing that I have a trouble with. Obviously, I'm always like, focused on one goal. And I think that's a positive thing. But at the same time, I do need to sometimes just sit back and be like, okay, let's see what's going on. Let's go, and actually Jeremy from last week has told me many times, Nella, put the brake pedal on a little bit. And I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. But he tells me that all the time. So it's like, sometimes it's like, okay, I got to take that advice a little bit sometimes.
Well, that's because we want to enjoy it. That's right. Something. Now I enjoy it.
And I can take from both of those because like sometimes my mind, if nothing else, is all gas, no brakes. Mm-hmm. And it's like, what am I doing here? What am I doing here? And sometimes, and I'm going to flip it a little bit, there have been times where it's like, okay, TJ, what are you really doing? Like, you're doing this, you're doing that, you're doing this. You have all these portals open, but what are you doing? Because sometimes I think you can have too many portals open and you not be productive.
Absolutely.
I want to be productive. So I'm like, if I got to like scale back a little bit and say, okay, let me work it here. The pause moment, being in the present moment. Let me work this because this is working for me right now. Let me manifest over here. And when that door is closed or when that is executed, then let me go here. Because again, I get into my own head sometimes and it's like, you start looking around and you're like, okay, wait a minute. Everybody else is doing this. They're executing here. What are you doing? So I get that inner reflection. It's like, okay, sit down, take a step back and manifest what's going well for you right now. So, you know what I mean? Mine is definitely with much prayer, much perseverance, because I'm always, like you said, God, what am I doing in this season? I look at my life as the 4 seasons and like, okay, my season may not look like Robin's season.
Right.
Robin's season may not look like your season, but we're still in season. We're just not in the same season, yep. Right? And the older I get, the more wisdom I have in just sitting down, looking at that. Like, you may be in this season like, oh, Robin's doing her thing. She's manifesting. And I'd be over here like, okay, well, maybe it's not my season to manifest in that way. Maybe my season is just to be quiet, be still, right? And your season is to, be vocal or, whatever. So I'm learning that, the older I get, the more wisdom I attain. I'm learning just be present, pause a minute, manifest what you have going on, and execute that to the fullest.
I love when you talk about like the portals. All in my head, I kept thinking of like all the tabs open.
That's exactly. I'm going right across my computer. I'm like,
and you know that
Girl, they're portals. They're huge.
they're portal, yeah.
That's how I operate. I have so many different tabs open, and I'm bouncing around sometimes from all the different tabs that I have to do, and sometimes it helps me be accountable, and it makes me, I know what, I think I do it because it makes me feel like I'm accomplishing something because I'm working on every single tab. But sometimes the one tab is neglected a little bit. You know, I'm not in there as much as this tab and this tab. So I think that's a really good point, is like kind of like just take a step and put a little bit more energy in maybe prioritizing and manifesting with action, which is taking action on, okay, how is this going to be more productive? How am I going to be more productive in this area?
Right. But what happens when you ask yourself that question and you realize, okay, well, maybe it is not, for me to manifest in this area.
Sometimes it's like, you got to put it down.
Right.
This is not going to happen
right. Like maybe
now.
it's right.
Nobody's
like
head is
maybe
falling
you don't
off.
have the grace to do that right now. You know what I mean? Because people have, in other words, let me explain it this way, because I'm like getting in my head. If a friend calls and says, hey girl, let's, I got this like proposition over here, and they want us to come over here and do that. And it's like, okay, well, you may want to do it because a friend asked you, like a colleague, asked you, but maybe that's not your place to manifest. And if you don't know that when you get there and it doesn't work out for you in that way, then you're left with like all of the feelings of, well, we may be left with like the negative feelings that you were talking about. So, what happens when something you do pick up doesn't manifest the way we want it to? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So 2 things I was going to go back to. I'm going to get to you in just a second, but you said something right before, and it was like having the tabs open and everything. And, and sometimes you're getting in your own head. I also see the piece, and it's really been having the 3 of us, is that we're able to, because I remember just last week, and you kind of said, and you're like, okay, Robin, you good?
Yeah.
Because you seem very, and it was just enough to but to have your people that they're going, whoa, what is happening? What is happening? And I know we've done that. And anytime we're in a transition, like if we're growing, if we're doing this is changing. Sometimes, and especially the 3 of us, we are go, go, go. It does take one of us to just go, sit down a minute.
Close the door.
Close the door.
I love you.
and not just in an ugly way or anything, but it's just like we see each other, when our hearts are all in the same place, we know when somebody's struggling. And a lot of times we don't know how bad it is. And when that's what I'm saying, having your good people there to kind of even help you pause if you cannot. So that was one thing on that side.
So part of manifesting is to have your people around you so that they can go with you, which means telling you when to pause, telling you to keep going. They're holding you accountable, your people, in order to manifest your dream.
Well, and it might not be that, and again, that you even understand what's happening. You know what I mean? And like I said, I always take it back to the marathon, because again, everybody can understand wearing a pair of shoes and you want so bad to get there. And I always say to my people, I go, but here's the thing. I said, you may be training and the Boston Marathon is Saturday and you're in your last little whatever, you trip, your foot you're done. You're broken. Like, you're not going to be running the race on there. I said, and that's where I go back to, but it's not always about the goal, because a lot of times we're like, but I did it. And it's about, all of that too. And so that's what I'm saying is that even with that, having a team, having this that expose, hey, Robin, listen, girl, like you're like a little frazzled over here because you're missing some stuff here. Let us fix your schedule, or can we do this? And I know you're always been really good about that. And, we've been good about, hey, do you need like a day or something? And we all have, older parents, and we're been dealing, a couple different things, and we're really good about picking up that slack. And so, even with that, I think it's just having people that know you, not that we're going to tell you not to go get it,
right?
But it's like, is it, because remember, is it risk worth reward?